you doing, guys? No, I can't.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing? I'm Mike Petrosky.
Hey, Mike, Wayne Mazzoni. How you doing?
Good. You guys enjoying yourselves or what?
You know what? I can't complain. I mean, I'm 50. I've been coaching 30 some odd years in the spring, and to have my first spring, I mean, I miss coach, I miss the guys, but it's
Right.
nice actually to have a life for a little while. You know,
Slowed everything down. Absolutely.
exactly, 100%. It's a cool setup you got there.
Yeah, it's just down in the basement. I've been hanging out down here, and I use it
Awesome.
probably 2 times out of the year. That's about it.
Right.
So
So have you guys done one of these already?
no, we haven't. So I guess you guys are the test dummies right now. So
Yeah.
good luck.
Yeah, it should be. I've done so many different things, as probably a lot of us have, and it works pretty cool. So I'm curious to see how this one will go with the group of us and then the whole audience. I think it should be good.
Yeah, I just think that you are putting out there, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's going along and they're actually paying attention. I mean, they can make this recruiting process pretty easy for them,
Right. Yeah, agreed.
Hey, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you, Nate.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. How you guys doing?
How's Richmond? How's the traffic down there in Richmond right now? Pretty good?
So I grew up in Philadelphia, where the traffic is brutal. I grew up in the suburbs. That was like the best part of moving down here, and now it's even less traffic. There's no traffic here. So.
All right. We were down there. So again, I was with a different organization last year. So I coached with MVP, and I kind of came over to Pride this year. Brought a lot of horses and a lot of talented guys. But we were down there last year on your campus and stuff like that. So really remarkable. I really enjoyed it. So
yeah, for sure. No, thank you. I always tell people we got a great product to sell. The issue is we have a tough time getting kids in because the academic standards are just a lot of people don't even realize it, because about 15, 20 years ago, it wasn't nearly as rigorous as it is now. But like the average ACT at the school is a 33.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
The admissions office, they don't give us probably as much support as we need. So we gotta get a little creative with how we can make it work. So
I don't know if this is a question that's going to come up, but like, how's the SATs and ACTs going to affect you guys? Like, are you guys going to get like kind of some passes on some kids that you kind of like tiptoed around?
Yeah, so that's interesting. I've been asked that by actually a few kids that we're talking to that are actually too low with their test scores. So I think a lot of kids are thinking that way. But for us, we haven't heard anything yet. I know that some of my buddies who coach at Ivy League schools, they're really the ones that are like, they don't know what's going to happen with that.
Yeah.
See, some of the kids that'll affect, which is not the ones you're dealing with, but there's kids that needed a better SAT score to be a qualifier.
Right.
And now you don't have another opportunity to actually, all right, this is it. I'm done. I'm done.
That's great.
Mully,
Holtzy, what's up?
what's going on? What's up, Maz?
What's up, kid? How you doing, buddy?
I'm great. What's going on, Mike? How are you?
Good. How about yourself?
Yeah, he's representing the Israel on the back. That's
Yeah,
what right?
Holtzy.
Let's go.
Yeah. Holtzy,
Yeah.
I got you back there, and I got your bat you gave me as a gift right here.
There you go.
See that?
How about this shirt, guys?
Oh, that's funny. That's good. I like it. Nate, what's with the? Are you a runner?
I am. Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah, I see all your. What do you do? What kind of races do you do?
So it's my fiance and I. Those are like kind of our bibs, I guess, from different runs. So I haven't done all those, but I run marathons. I run about one a year.
You do?
So.
Wow. Okay.
It's aggressive for me.
Maz, I don't know if you know, Mully is not only a dear friend, but he's my assistant coach with Israel.
Oh, I didn't know that. No, that's cool.
So Mully's my first base coach and just a tremendous guy. And all throughout the qualifiers, I'm like going to sleep and finding where I can get some good pasta. And this guy's going out and running like 8-10 miles a day, man. Crazy.
Running keeps you sane, man, you know.
I can't do it, man. I've had too many knee surgeries. I started riding a bike again because I just can't take the impact. But I started doing a few miles a day on the bike and just working out and lifting again. I'm getting ready. I want the season to start too, Wayne. I'm waiting.
Yeah. Eric, it's something great. Obviously, it's probably not going to be open to you now, but I probably in the last year and a half I started to swim. And it just, you come out of the pool, man, and you just don't feel beat up. Like, Nate, I ran today, but it wears you down. But you come out of the pool, you kind of don't feel like you did anything,
Sure, yeah.
And you're using your whole body, which is what's so great about swimming.
I love the swimming too, because you got to hold your breath under the water, so it really helps your lungs. Like it's good.
Yeah. What's up, Joe?
Not much. What's going on, guys?
How we doing?
I'm doing all right.
Hey,
Joe,
Wayne,
before we start, I want to know where you're getting the Corona haircuts.
I just got one right now. I legit just got done. It's a secret. We have up in the country here, we have hairdressers that come right to your house.
I like it.
And I did my own,
Well, I've been doing my own for a while, Wayno.
True. Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
Mully, and Mully, just for you to know, Wayne and I go back to the early 90s where we played ball together for a bunch of years.
It's awesome. Yeah, I just messaged Wayne. So, Wayne, you went to Gettysburg?
I did. I'm just writing you back. Yes.
Yeah. So I coached at Franklin and Marshall for 2 years, so I know Gettysburg well.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, it's awesome. Very cool. I'm also a D3 guy. I played at Rochester, so.
You did. Okay. Yep. So Eric and Joe and Mike, how's this, like, in other words, do you open it up to the kids or are the kids coming in now? How does it work?
What we're doing, obviously, to get around recruiting. I mean, before we start, and obviously we're waiting for Corey and Hurba to get here. Thank you for your time. And it's one way that we can try and keep the kids engaged in just a real weird time. And to get around the recruiting stuff, we had the kids kind of write in probably about 100 questions, just stuff that, they wanted to hear different voices than ours. And what we thought was, we'd ask some questions and then kick it around to you guys and just kind of really like almost let you guys take turns and answer some questions that may pertain to you guys best.
Got it.
Yeah.
And the kids aren't on this call. The kids will not.
No, the kids cannot be on this call as per the NCAA. But what we're going to do, that's why we had them send in the questions. We're going to, Joe's going to record this, and then we're going to send it out to them so they can watch it on their own.
Got it. Totally.
So really, to kind of make sure that that this was basically for them. Is like Eric said, we had them basically create the questions. So all the questions that are in here are basically all the questions that are coming from the players within the organization. And then kick it back to them and kind of hold them accountable for the content that they wanted to create. So what they're going to have to do is send back to us, their key takeaways from the call. So to make sure everybody's getting involved.
And then what we'll do is we'll kind of cross off the questions that we asked today. And we have another call set up for next week with some other coaches, and then we'll go into other questions there so we don't repeat anything.
Got it.
Right.
Come on, guys.
What's up, guys?
What's up?
Hello.
You guys are on the same clock. Come right in at the same time.
There was no traffic.
I was a little backed up. I was on a previous Zoom earlier.
Somebody just posted something that I thought was really funny on like Twitter, and it's like what everyone's going through. Like the first minutes are to make sure everyone's audio is right and that everyone's connected, and then you get kicked off, then you come back on, then you have a little bit of content, and then someone has to leave for their next Zoom. Like it was really it's kind of what the mode we're all in now.
Yeah, 100%.
Are you guys doing like almost more now than what you would be during the season? Because I like Corey and Coach Hurba, I see you guys are on Zooms all the time.
I'll be honest with you, like if I never had to Zoom again, I'd be okay with it. But I actually, during this time, I've learned more about our craft and what we're doing than in any it's been 5 weeks, 6 weeks. I probably learned more in the last 5 weeks than I have in the last 3 years, maybe 4 years.
The content that these coaches are putting out, like I said, it was unbelievable. And it's just powerful right now. For the coaches trying to learn and educate themselves.
We're at a point where there's so much technology and information, and it's really good stuff, but it can really bog you down and make things complicated. And without having other things that take up a lot of our time, like I've been able to dive into this and really start to understand it better. And I feel like it's going to make a major impact for my guys. So that part of it's been huge. I've enjoyed that thoroughly. And yeah, like the days have been busy solely because I've been awful with balance in my life. Like my whole life has been baseball and my family always suffers. So one of the priorities I've tried to do in this is like put everything between 12 and 5 or 12 and 4. So now every day is shrunk, and it's like those 4 to 5 hours are action packed, but then the rest of the day is it's better with the family. So I don't know. I'm probably one of the few people that like has actually found this very liberating, if anything. But
yeah.
So Corey and Ryan, thank you for being with us. I'm Eric. I work with Joe at the Northeast Pride. I also own my own facility here in New York, and Coach Muhlberg and I actually coach together with the Israel national team. First and foremost, just appreciate your time and being here with us. What we said a couple minutes ago was, just keeping kind of the kids locked into some of the things that are going on. This is obviously an unprecedented time for everybody. And, a lot of people just don't know what's going on, and we're not expecting you to have every answer for everything, but we had the kids write in a bunch of different questions that pertain to recruiting or working out and staying in shape, both mentally and physically. And, what Joe and I were thinking of was just kind of going through a question at a time, and maybe, somebody just jumping in and answering, and then we can move on to the next thing. We have hundreds of questions. Obviously, we're not going to get to them all today, but we'll try and get to as many as we can within an hour so that Corey can go back to his family. And
my wife will thank you very much for that.
Yeah. All good. Joe, you want to start?
Yeah. So, we'll just start here with the mental side of the game. So one of the questions was, how can you continue to train the mental side of the game and build mental toughness? And as a follow-up, this is a tough time what we're going through right now, and what can we do to work on the mental side of the game?
I can take that. How do you want us to do this? You want us to just jump right in, or do you want to assign a question?
Yeah, just jump right in, and then anybody who has a follow-up, when you're finished.
Is there any way that we can introduce these guys first? I think kind of just get their names out there and get their, kind of a little bit of a background first. Is there any way we can get that?
Well, you know what? The first question they answer, they can kind of just say who they are. How's that?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Right.
I'll take the mental game one. So I'm Corey Muscara. I'm the pitching coach at Maryland. And the mental game is endless, okay? Like there's so many different avenues you can go. And it's like anything. It has to fit to your personality, okay? Because you can't cookie cut how you're going to get the mental game done. You have to have buy-in first for yourself, right? So my first recommendation is I would dabble in a couple different things. So if you've never done meditation before, Headspace is a great app. You can get on there and try to work on having zero thought. And there's a lot of techniques that they use, and it's really self-explanatory. They give you a free version of the app that you can try out. So basically everybody in your organization that wants to work on mental toughness can start there. It's free, and you can give it a try and see how you react to that. I will tell you that meditation is extremely hard, all right? The whole concept is trying to be in zero thought, and for any of you, if you close your eyes, like think about how many thoughts are running through your head at all time. What do you have to do next? What do you want to do next? What are the things that happen in your day? It's very, very challenging. Okay. Why does that impact people? Well, I referenced this in a podcast that I was on with Coach Hurba, but there's a book called It Takes What It Takes by Trevor Moawad. And the first chapter of his book, he talks about neutral thinking. Okay, so neutral thinking is like you don't get caught up in the future. You don't get caught up in the past. You assess the situation you're in right now and what you can do in your process to make an impact on the outcome. What can you do in your response? The thing that is really good about using Headspace is that it trains that mechanism. We're in a society now where there's so much social media. There's constant live feedback all the time, and you have instant gratification. Your brain literally can't process neutrality. It's a very tough thing to do, especially for these young kids now. They're playing video games. They're on social media. There's constant information in their head, and it's hard to block that stuff out. So I would start there. Visualization's awesome. So for kids that struggle with visualization, there's a lot of things you can do there. Like you can watch a video of yourself performing well. You can watch different highlights of yourself. If you don't have that, you can think about like your last game, and you can start to write down the things within the game. Like what was the temperature like? What was the team you played? Who were the batters you faced? And you can start to try to build that scenario back in your head and visualize those outcomes. Those are different techniques that you can use to work on the mental game. Another big technique that's really important, you have to have routines, right? You have to get to a default where you feel most comfortable. So you need to practice your routines. Like every hitter and every pitcher needs to have a pre-pitch routine. You watch Nomar going back in the day. Nomar had the batting gloves. He used to rip off the batting gloves, the toe tap. He'd sit there. That's all part of his pre-pitch routine. All the pitchers that are out there, they fix their hats. They touch the ball a certain way. And that gets you to your normal. It gets you to your default where you try to eliminate distractions. Those are 4 things that I think are super impactful. And you can Google a lot of that stuff and find information out there. There's, I use his name all the time, but Alan Yeager has a ton of stuff that's free on his website, articles he posts on meditation, mental training, videos. I love using Alan Yeager as an example all the time because he has so much free, good information for kids. And I think at the end of the day, like, however you can get kids information for free is awesome, So I don't know if anybody wants to add to that.
Yeah, I would like to add something to what Corey said. So I'm Nate Muhlberg. I am an assistant coach at the University of Richmond. I completely agree with everything he said. I think the main thing that I wanted to touch on just from my own personal experience is the meditation. A couple of years ago, I actually went on a meditation retreat for a week, and it was a life-changing experience. I knew nothing about meditation at the time, and after I left that trip, I left thinking, wow, I wish I had this when I played, because this would have taken me personally as a player to another level that I never was at. Because I think back on my career, and just being brutally honest, I would play shortstop thinking about, I'm going to make the next mistake, or I would make a mistake and I couldn't get that thought out of my head. My thought patterns were all over the place. I think if anybody tells you they don't have negative thoughts when they play baseball, I think they're lying, because I think everybody has it and we all have it in life. So when I got back from this meditation trip, I learned about the Calm app, which is very, very similar to Headspace.
Love that
it's the one. Same idea. And over the last 3 years, I've literally made meditation a daily practice for myself every single day, 5 to 10 minutes. It takes time to get good at it, just like Coach Muscara said. But the big thing I think for me that I talk to our guys about is it helps you get in the present moment. And the thing I want you to ask yourselves as a player is, when you hit a home run or you get a big hit, a walk-off hit, or as a pitcher, you get a big strikeout, a lot of times guys leave that situation saying, I don't even know what just happened. It was like an out-of-body experience where you weren't even thinking about anything. Well, really what that is the experience, the phenomenon of being in the present moment. So the reason why meditation helps is because when you meditate, like Coach Muscara talked about, you're thinking about nothing. And the thing that these meditations always come back to is focusing on your breath. Because when you focus on your breath, that is literally the only thing going on in the present moment. When you breathe, it's literally happening right now. You're not thinking of the future. You're not thinking of the past. So that's why when people in athletics, you might see a hitter go to the plate, take a deep breath before they step in the box. A guy shoot a free throw before they shoot a big free throw in a basketball game, they take a deep breath. It's getting in that frame of mind of living in the present moment where a lot of people believe peak performance can happen at its greatest, frequency.
I will
I'd
add
like to
that
add
real
something
quick.
in there too, but go ahead, Eric.
I was just going to say a good friend of mine named Wayne Mazzoni, who happens to be on this call, turned me on to comm about 4 or 5 years ago. And, as you were just talking about, Coach Muhlberg, I spent about 10 minutes a morning on the comm app thanks to Wayne. So.
Yeah, and I wanted to just add a couple things. Wayne Mazzoni, pitching coach at Sacred Heart, and it's all awesome stuff. I have one thing to add on it and maybe a slight tweak in there possibly, but we do a 3-minute meditation at the start of every single practice, It's just a breathing exercise. It's to get them from off their phones, out of class, meeting with an advisor, fighting with their girlfriend, whatever they were doing, playing Fortnite, and into the moment of practice. So start that all the time. Every day is a 3-minute meditation. I like to consider it mindfulness, and I don't know if we're getting over semantics, but I can't get to no thoughts myself. I can get to lock in on that one thought. Like Nate said, it could be breath, could be the feeling of my back on the bed or on the ground, or my feet inside my shoes. And I just try to lock in on one thought. And just as Nate said, everyone has that self-talk. And I think when you're out there on the mound, Corey and I are pitching guys, when you're out there on the mound going, why is coach warming somebody up? Not this dude up here again. This guy crushed me last time. You have these thoughts. To me, mindfulness is being aware that you're having these thoughts and then redirecting them to something else. And that's why I have all my guys, they have to write something underneath their hat, whatever they want to write. And when they're losing their crap, they step off, they look, and it just says, trust your stuff, attack. It's not life or death, go after, whatever they have. And just try to be a way, as Corey said, to lock them back into that moment.
Awesome. Joe, next question.
All right. So is there easily missed mistakes or bad habits that you see freshmen coming in with? And if so, what do you think they can do to prevent that?
Should we have Ryan tackle that one?
Yeah, I'll tackle it. So I guess I'll talk about it from an offensive standpoint. I guess that's probably the most relatable thing for me and probably the most intimate, because I'm dealing with our hitters day in and day out. I would say there's 2 things that I think a lot of young hitters struggle with when they show up. Number one is the fact that they have to step away from who they were in high school, meaning most guys that you'll see at our level batted first or third. Most of those guys were always dependent on, in big situations. They were the guys that you really prayed were up when the chips were on the table. And it's tough for a kid to go from feeling that way all summer and all spring for 2 or 3 years to then being potentially a guy who hits 8th in our lineup and now isn't viewed that way. It's really hard to get those kids. They almost have to have this self-awareness and admit it first that they're like, you're going to bat 8th and you're a freshman. You don't have any stat line. Corey and Coach Mazzoni's job is to get you out in as few pitches as possible because we're about to turn the corner to the top of a veteran lineup. It's really hard to get an 18-year-old to understand that. And then I also think what that parlays into a little bit is a lot of young hitters are really passive on the fastball, really passive. They'll give you a million reasons why they don't like a fastball. And so what I'll try and do with those guys really quickly is get them to understand the first part of that I talked about, and then also just to try and get them to identify with why they're so selective with fastballs. And through flip drills and plate orientation drills, just get them to understand how easy it is to cover 17 inches if you're in hit mode. It's really not that hard to cover 17 inches. If you ask a lot of good hitters, a lot of veteran hitters at any level, what's key to hitting? It's move the fastball forward. You know what I mean? Don't take too many fastball strikes. And I know it's a good feeling as a pitching coach probably when you're calling pitches and guys are passive on the fastball. Everything else plays up, and it's a bad feeling as a hitting coach when your guys are, down in the count, strike one early. So I'd say that's probably universally the biggest thing I've experienced probably over 15 years at this level with high school kids coming in.
Great answers. Great answers. Joe, if you don't mind, I'm going to jump in here. What's the number one thing you guys look for in a player that you may look to recruit?
I'll jump in and start with that one, which I would probably preface it, and these other guys can add on top of it, but is kind of how we got to that player in the first place. Like if we're going to Diamond Nation or going to watch a game, what brought us there to go see a particular kid? And I'll say that when I hear from a guy like Joe or you, Eric, and I have a relationship, and you tell me this is a kid that can play for you, and he's the right kind of kid, and he's a worker, and he's the one you want in your program, that's the first step to get me to sort through this chaos of recruiting. I think recruiting is overwhelming, flat out overwhelming. And to go from the noise of all these kids emailing you in a million different events and teams and tournaments, and you say, hey, I got this kid you got to look at, that's something that I know I really like, because now I feel like I'm on the right track. And then from there, these guys can maybe talk about what they're going to look for when you're actually on a field watching a kid.
Yeah, I'll touch on this too. So for me, the kids that we watch and we see, we get so much video now, you know, like you can see a lot on video, just like how they move, you know, how if they're a hitter, like how their hands work, their bat pat, you know, you can see a lot of stuff there. Pitching, you can see the arm action, you can see all that stuff. And that's great. That's all well and good. But to Coach Mazzoni's point is we have to take this group of people and filter it down, right? So the first step for me is usually I get information from people. They say, hey, I got a kid, check out the video, whatever. That's always step one for me. I watch that. Then it's get them on the phone. And when I get guys on the phone, and some of the guys in Northeast Pride organization know what I'm talking about, like I spend a lot of time trying to figure their minds out and how they think and what their character is and what their makeup is. I'm going to give homework assignments. I'm going to talk about what I believe in, and then I want to hear their feedback. I want to hear how they process this. And that entire time, I'm trying to figure out, like, does their personality match up with my personality? Are they going to be able to be coached by me? Do they think like I want our culture to be in our program? Are they going to match up with the other guys in this program? Do they believe what I believe? You know, and that's hard. Like, you don't always have that right. And, you know, sometimes, like, I'm recruiting 15-year-old kids a lot of times. So their brains aren't developed yet. Like, they haven't really started to understand a lot of this stuff. So for me, I spend a lot of time, months even, trying to figure that piece out. And then usually at that point, I get to actually watch them in games, because a lot of this stuff is happening in the dead time. It's happening, like, you know, when I can't really watch a lot of baseball. I try to do as much homework as I can on the front side with that. And then when I go out and see kids play, that's where we're, you know, doing the evaluation piece. You know, that's where it's like, you know, say it's a hitter. Like, how does he command the strike zone? You know, like, does he swing at strikes? You know, how hard does he play the game? Like, does he swing and miss a lot? If it's a pitcher, like, is he in the zone with his fastball? Does he have one redeeming quality that I can, you know, that can give me a swing and miss? You know, those are the factors I look for. And then it puts the whole piece of the puzzle together, you know? And obviously, like, you got to talk to as many people as you can about him too. Like, you got to talk to his coaches, his high school coaches, his travel coaches, maybe other players he plays with. You know, you'd be surprised at all the information you can find on things. But it's really like putting the pieces of the puzzle together that give you that information. So I can't go on one thing. If I try to go on one thing, I'm going to be wrong. It's hard enough trying to figure out what 15-year-old kid's going to be good, you know? So I try to build it up all around that, you know?
If let's assume you get us to the field to see the right guy, and we've done a little bit of legwork. If you cornered me on one thing I want to see out of a guy, and it's in the evaluation process, I want to see the guy on the field that kind of seems like the game's a little slower than everybody else around him. So the guy who just seems to be making the game a little slower, the guy who every play just seems a little easier, there's a little less effort to it, and usually if you focus hard enough on the middle of the field, those guys will stand out. So I know it's a really general question. You know, we could spend, guys who recruit a lot could spend hours talking about all the little tangents, you know, that involve it. But if you said, what's one thing, if I was a kid, what's one thing I got to do? You got to make routine plays look routine, and you got to do them consistently. And if you do that, you know, you'll start to separate yourself quicker than you think.
Gotcha.
And just to add one last thing to that, this is a differentiating factor. It's not the factor that will recruit a kid on, but body language for me is a big part of it as well. I haven't done an actual study on this, so I'm kind of speaking out of nowhere on this, but I see a tendency with the best players around the country when I watch other teams, the best players in our program, that when they get out as a hitter, they run back to the dugout with their head up and a pep in their step, and they're confident, and they're not dropping their head, and they're not throwing stuff because they know failure is part of the game and the pitcher got away with one on that last pitch. Or from the other standpoint, when a pitcher has a bad outing, when they walk off the mound, they don't throw their glove, they walk back in the dugout, have some semblance of calmness because they know the other team got lucky this time around. So I watch that with recruiting because to me, that's a habit that is really instilled in a lot of kids' brains, the mental toughness to be able to get over failure because you're going to get another opportunity. And at the college level, nobody plays at the Division I level at any college level. And if you want to go into play pro ball, if you can't cope with that failure and just be confident knowing that you got out or you had a bad outing, you're going to really struggle in the future.
Just a follow-up on that, guys. So, I mean, that's all good stuff. So you guys get tons of emails, videos, you know, obviously we reach out, all travel organizations, I would say bulk of them reach out to you. So we went over the stuff that you look for and the good stuff. Like, what are some of the don'ts? Like emails, you get paragraphs and paragraphs of emails, videos with music, like stuff on the field, anything like that's a turn off.
Yeah.
Ooh, boy. Yeah, go ahead, Corey.
For me, like when they only want to talk about their personal matrix, like, yeah, that stuff's important. But when all you want to talk about is how good your 60 is or how much your ball exit velo is, that's all you're talking about to me. It shows me that you're in a self-centered world where it's just about how you trained. That stuff's a piece of the puzzle. It's nice to know that stuff. But I feel like there's certain kids that, like, that's all that they want to talk about, you know, and there's so many other layers to it. I think that's
Do you guys,
it's a red flag. You know what I mean?
Corey, do you guys feel like overwhelmed at times with the amount of video and the amount of emails that either you're getting in general or a specific kid is sending you?
If I'm being honest, it's really hard for me to process all the emails that I get daily. And I mean, this isn't a popular answer, but I don't read a lot of the mass emails I get. That being said, I got a personal written email from a kid from Ohio, and it was really good. Like, he was like, hey, he started off with, hey, I'm so-and-so. My father went to Maryland, you know? And I was like, oh, all right. And then, like, he had a ton of, like, pieces in there in reading it that I could tell, like, he took time to look up information on us. And then he put a small video in there. It was a PBR video, and the video was really good. And I was like, I got to, like, figure out how to get in touch with this kid. I was blown away because you see the generic emails from different companies, and you see so many of them, you already know what they are. And your brain can already, like, kind of filter through it, you know? That email probably impressed me more than any email I've received in the last year or two. And I'm going to probably recruit that kid now, you know? Awesome. But to your point, we get so many, I don't want to call them spam because they're not spam, but you get so many emails and you get inundated with so many that you don't have enough time in the day to do all the things you have to if you're going to read all of those. At least for me anyway. I don't know. But,
you know, emails are in a sense for the kids, it's marketing is what it is, right? And so there's got to be something that separates you. And at one point, that marketing, if you're going to put a video in there, you know, video is what it is. But we've all gotten videos, hundreds, and a couple have stood out. We've got catcher in our program from California. We don't have a national name brand, right? We don't go out and sit in California for weeks on end and recruit those kids. He sent an email to a handful of schools from the East Coast. And he said, I got Ivy League, you know, type grades. I'm involved with some schools in Ivy Leagues. I want a really good education. Saw the video. He's a switch hitting catcher that plays shortstop when he doesn't catch. So that put him in a really unique category. Yeah. I reach out, and the first question I ask him is, why would you email us? He said, well, I've been to Cooperstown because I played at the Dreams Park, and I love that part of the country. And I'm like, well, that's probably in July or August, and we're talking in January. So for being real here, I gotta
Right.
I'm going to tell you how it really is. Got a chance to talk to him for 8 or 9 months and really get to know him, but he separated himself because you don't see a lot of switch hitting catchers. You don't see a lot of switch hitting catchers who can go play a premium position on their off day on a decent travel team, you know, and you don't see a lot of kids that take the time to write a little longer email with some highlights as to why they want to come out to the East Coast and stuff. So like Corey said, you do have to try and do something that separates you a little bit. And I haven't reread that email in a long time. And that young man's a part of our program now, but I do know this. I don't remember any stats from that email. I don't remember any metrics from that email. I just remember a heartfelt email about a young man that grew up on the West Coast, wanted to find his way to the East Coast, and made mention, I do remember, I have only emailed a handful of schools, and you guys are one of them. So that made me feel a little bit special and have to inquire why us. I have to know.
I'll add one thing in there. That was great points by both of you guys. I'm definitely the oldest guy of the college guys here. So I've gone through various phases. I'm kind of in that phase right now where this is going to sound silly, like I'm a little down on video. Like I see some guys on video, man, they look good. And then, you know, you've checked them out and it just doesn't translate to the field. And then we also do this in meetings sometimes. We show some of our freshmen's recruiting videos up on the screen in front of our team. We have a center fielder who is probably our best prospect, Justin Jordan, who is really, really good. You could actually throw up in your mouth when you watch this video from high school. I mean, he looks awful. He looks awful, and he can play. I think there's things in our sport you just can't see from a 5-minute video that maybe the other sports can. So it's certainly a piece of the puzzle, but I don't know. So many of them have them. The kids don't look good, and sometimes they look good. It doesn't pan out. So I wish it was so easy to go in, log in, get an email, click a video, and go, oh, wow.
But the
all right,
problem
recruiting's
with
done for today. This is great. You know?
The other side of that is then how would Coach Hurba find out about that kid in California, right? He's not going to be able to necessarily go see that kid play unless he's
you're right.
You know. So there's both sides to that for sure.
Yep.
I think that Coach Herbert really hit on this, but I think this is the best way for those guys at home thinking about this. Like, if you had 1 minute to make an introduction to somebody, you meet somebody for the first time, you're trying to get a job, maybe you're out and you're trying to get a date with a pretty girl, I don't know, and you want to make an impact on somebody quickly, what are you going to do to make an impact to stand out? You know, if you want a genuine response, put genuine effort in. If you want that email to be deleted, then copy and paste it. We've all been there. How many emails have we gotten with another coach from another school's name?
Hundreds.
You know, it's funny. I respond to everyone I get like that. I say, thanks for every time I say, thank you for the email. I really appreciate it. I'll let him know I'm friends with him. Every time.
Oh, that is awesome, dude.
Because, like, my thing is, like, listen, like, if you really care, then show me you really care. That kid from Ohio, like, it was unbelievable. There wasn't one out. That email wasn't sent out to any other school. I know it just because of all the stuff he put in there. You know what I mean? And that's how I'll remember it. And to that point, too, last thing I'll say, I had a kid at St. John's named Joe Kelly who finished 3rd all-time in appearances. The email literally wrote, "Hi, I'm Joe Kelly from California. I've been admitted to St. John's University, and I've been admitted to 4 schools on academic scholarships. I'm very interested in your program because you have a sidearm kid named Thomas Hackemer. I want to emulate him. I just started pitching sidearm." So I go, oh, all right, cool. He already got into school. He already got money. He wants to be like Tom. I know he didn't send that and he can't send that to all these other people.
Right.
I watched the video. It looked good. He came in from California, and he started all-time in appearances. I hate recruiting off email, but to Ryan's point, it happens if you put the effort in, you know?
Well said.
I mean, at the end of the day, kids need to really put as much effort into it with the schools that they really desire to be at as it needs to be. I mean, I think on our side of it, you know, our communication's probably a little bit different with a kid we've never seen or never heard of that's interested in coming to a prospect camp than our top recruit. So as a kid, maybe you should have 2 piles of schools. Maybe you should have a pile of schools I'm going to lob an email out to, and then a handful of schools I'm going to really get after it with and try and separate myself and take a little extra time. You know, we're not saying you got to reach out to 100 schools and make 100 intimate emails, but you better have a pile of them you do that with, because, we've all, I'm sure I could speak for all of us, because we all have a little bit of experience. We've all seen the copy and pasted emails hundreds of times, and we've all seen the emails that have wound up becoming roster spots in our program, and there is something that separates those.
And with that, it's self-awareness needs to happen, because it's so funny to me, like when we go through this recruiting process and you got Joey that wants to play at Florida State. Like everybody wants to play at Florida State, right? But how is it any different than when you go to your college counselor? If you're not playing a sport, right? They say, give me your reach school, give me your safety school, give me your, where you fit, right? Everybody has to do that that's going to go to college. They have their 3 different piles. And where does that 3 different piles come from? It comes from their academic criteria, okay? Well, it should be no different when trying to find a baseball school, okay? You should have your reach school. And now it comes into your academic criteria, how you are as a player, what type of player you are, and you should have your reach, and it should be 3 or 4, and then you should have the school that you probably fit into, 3 or 4, and then you should have your safety school, 3 or 4. And then that way that's 12 schools. You can get intimate with 12 schools. And then there's so many variables to that criteria, what part of the country, what type of thing you're trying to learn. That's how you want to put time and effort in the right way. That's how you do it, and you manage your time properly where you can get results.
As long as we're on recruiting, I'm going to throw one out to you, which is probably not going to be easy, being that we're 5 weeks into the new normal. Given the current situation with COVID-19, how are you as coaches continuing the recruitment process currently?
Well, first off, I guess I'll take that. We're in a dead period with the NCAA until May 31st, I think is the exact date. I don't know what's going to happen. It sounds like there is a chance that could get extended. So what that means for Division I programs is we can't go out on the road and recruit or have any in-person contact with any recruitable student athletes. So I think, at least from our standpoint, we're just in a waiting game. Some of our younger recruits that we've been talking to, that we've seen, we're kind of continuing the process with them. But at the end of the day, we're just kind of telling everybody just to hold tight. We're hoping that there's going to be baseball this summer and fall. Somebody talked about it. I think it was Corey, about just the instant gratification. I think that's the big problem here, is that we're at a point right now where, for the most part, most of the 2020s probably know where they're going. There might be some kids still out there figuring it out, but for the most part, the 2020s are good. The 2021s, we're still a year ahead of when they're going to be graduating high school. So for the 2021s who haven't found a home yet, there's still plenty of time. Now, if there's no summer baseball, that's absolutely going to impact things, but there's still time. Hopefully there's going to be fall baseball. And I think at the end of the day, people see so much on social media. My friend's committing here, my friend's committing there. My football friend got an offer here, because that's a big thing in football, I guess. Everybody announces their offers. My advice to all the kids is to just take a deep breath. Let's get through this pandemic. Everything will probably work out just fine. And I think, at least from my standpoint, I won't speak for the other coaches, but if we can't see you play in person, there's not much we can do right now other than kind of build our list based off of maybe some good emails we get, or some videos we may find on some of the different recruiting websites.
Based on the current situation, how many guys are you guys getting now interested as fifth years, grad students, etc.?
I'll take that. You're talking about returning guys?
Well, returning guys and fifth year guys, you may have, for instance, my younger son plays at Columbia, right? So Columbia does not offer a fifth year in the Ivy League doesn't offer a fifth year there. So guys are looking to transfer to be able to play a fifth year. Has that impacted you guys yet as well?
I'll just jump in to say that I know that, we had a pretty heavy senior and grad student group, 8 guys, and only 1 is returning, because the others basically can't afford it. And so unless our institution all of a sudden will put some money to make them match what their money was previously, these guys are moving on. So I know other schools that I've talked to, their schools are actually kicking in money, and they're going to get a fair amount of their guys back. But what will be interesting from our end is, what the underclass guys, the other 3 grades, are going to do as they go on. They're going to stay on for their 5th year. Boy, there's going to be a lot of interesting stuff over the next few years.
And I think a big thing that needs to take place here is it stinks. This is a terrible situation that none of us foresaw and want to be going through, but this is currently the new norm. This is the layout of NCAA baseball for the next 4 years. So Corey also mentioned it, the self-awareness process. There has to be some self-awareness here because it is absolutely now going to be more difficult to play Division I baseball than it was 3 months ago before all this happened, because it's going to be more saturated with high-level talent. We don't know exactly what's going to happen with the draft. Some schools are going to bring guys back. Some schools are going to bring in grad guys. It's just going to be a much more saturated market. The talent pool is going to be much higher. It's going to be good for the level of baseball, but guys have to be self-aware and willing to open up their minds to maybe other schools than otherwise would have been available. There's nothing wrong with going Division II. There's nothing wrong with going Division III. There's nothing wrong with going NAIA, JUCO. There's stories all across the board of guys going to every different type of school out there, making it to the big leagues. It happens everywhere. If you're good enough, they're going to find you. And I think at the end of the day, we have to do a good self-evaluation process. If I'm a parent, if I'm a kid, what am I trying to get out of this college baseball experience? If it was me, I'd be telling my kid it's to get a great education and play the highest level of baseball I can and keep playing so that hopefully I can prolong my career. Find a good fit, but don't pigeonhole yourself and say, I have to go Division I if because of everything going on now, that's going to put you in a situation where you're just going to fall behind everybody else. You want to go somewhere you can play, bottom line.
I mean, you guys watched The Last Dance, right? I mean, Scottie Pippen went NAIA.
Yeah. JD Martinez went to a D2 school.
Right.
There's going to be a huge, I personally think, trickle-down effect. I talk about this. I'm passionate about this because I played D3, I coached D3, and I'm coaching Division I now. But just to give you an example, obviously Holtzy's the manager of Team Israel. One of our players is Jake Fishman. And Jake Fishman for Team Israel, he played at Union College. I played against Jake Fishman, Division III, when I was at Rochester, and Jake Fishman got drafted after 3 years to Union. So I think all the levels of college baseball now are going to be so much better, and you just got to keep an open mind. Go play somewhere where you're going to play. It doesn't matter necessarily what level you're going to play at.
What is a common characteristic trait that you've seen in elite players?
I'll take that. I was on the phone with one of my former players the other day, and he's in AA right now. And we were talking about, what is the common thing you see with all guys at that level? And it's the ability to bounce back from failure. It's the ability to handle adversity. We talk about it in life. We talk about it all the time in development. But to the point, to piggyback off recruiting, everybody needs to handle adversity. But in baseball, with so much failure, if you don't get an opportunity to respond after failure, then how can you really improve that skill of dealing with adversity? To the point, you have to find somewhere where you're going to get chances to respond to your failure. If you go somewhere where you get that one opportunity and you've stunk and you don't get back on the field for 4 months, it's really hard to train your ability to respond to adversity. But if you go somewhere where, hey, this is a good fit, this is going to work, yeah, you stunk, but now you go back out there again, it's a little bit better, and you go back out there again, and it's a little bit better, and maybe the coach gives you a pat on the butt and says, hey, you're good, kid, you can do this. That's the right fit. And that really depends on what type of player and who you are and where you're going. That's where the homework comes into play. But the common thing that I see with all players that are really elite, they can handle adversity well. They handle failure well. They can self-assess. They can formulate a plan to come back and attack those things. They don't look at failure as the defining moment. They look at it as feedback on how they can become the best version of themselves. That's
I'll
to me
add into that too, is because I've been kind of asked these questions and really started to think about it. And I think that it's two ways to say it. They just love the work. Like, they just work and work and work. And I think that it is because it's not work. All the extra ground balls, all the stuff that's involved, the lifting, they love it. It's truly a passion. And I think there's a lot of kids that are playing and they like it, but I don't know if they obsessively love it. I mean, Troy Scribner, who is a guy that is our first ever big leaguer at Sacred Heart. I mean, you literally had to pry him off the field from taking BP. He would just take ground balls at shortstop all day. When practice was done, when guys are starving and they want to go do something else, he wants more ground balls. You know, I think they just absolutely are obsessed and love it. And I think that's what probably leads to success in almost any field. Is it's just such an obsession that it isn't work. It's an enjoyable form of work.
I think when you use a word like elite, it's a really different category than above average or good or great even. So for me, it's aptitude. Aptitude's like a natural ability. And guys who have aptitude make quick adjustments. If you're consistently covering the same things with guys, they don't have aptitude. And Joe, to your point, I'm making my kids watch The Last Dance. We got through episode 1 last night, right?
Me too.
And that's something that was something that Roy Williams, I think, was the one who said, he's like, Jordan just got better every practice. He'd make a mistake and the next day he wouldn't make it. So I think for me, it's one word, it's aptitude. It's your ability to do something with some ease so that when you're asked to make an adjustment, that adjustment happens pretty quick. You're not banging your head off of a wall.
One question that's been asked by a bunch of kids is, how important is size in recruiting?
I don't want to dominate it, but I got a great answer for this one. I actually prepared some notes, so I got a great answer.
Go ahead.
For us, it's not that important. And that's easy to say, but I'm going to throw a couple stats at you here, so it'll take a minute. So our 2014 team was a regional team. We went to the regionals in 13, 14, and 16. So if you took the 2014 team and you took our starting lineup, almost all those guys either went to 2 regionals or 3 regionals. That's pretty special for a group of 4 guys. Well, and how hard it is to get to, especially if we play in a conference where it's hard to get in that large bid. You got to play best baseball at the right time, right? Our starting third baseman was David Shands. He was a 4-year starter. On that year's roster, he was 6 foot, 155 pounds. Went to 3 regionals. Reed Gamache was a 3.5-year starter, 6 foot, 165 pounds. Played 2 years of professional baseball with the New York Mets. Went to 3 regionals. Billy Bereznowitz, 5'10", 175 pounds. Probably about 165 pounds in the morning. Billy B went to 2 regionals, 4-year starter, freshman All-American, and played with the Dodgers for a season. 4-year starter at short, Johnny Howell, 5'11", 180. 4-year starter in the outfield, Zach Blandon, 5'10", 170. All multiple trips to the NCAA tournament. 4-year starter at second, Danny Navarez, 5'10", 180. And a 4-year starter who made it to Double-A with the Blue Jays, Jake Thomas, 5'10", 185. So I don't know what big is, but if you're not north of 6 foot and you don't weigh over 175 pounds, I wouldn't consider that all that big in this day and age.
I'm going to throw this at Muscara, though. But, Corey.
Ryan, that was awesome, by the way.
That was great, Coach. I happen to know one of your, I guess will now be a repeat freshman pitcher, Sam Bello. He's a local kid here.
Yeah.
I mean, a kid like that just sticks out like a sore thumb, and you can't not look at a kid like that when he walks in your door.
Look, I'll be lying to you if I said that when I watch pitchers, I don't look at size and projectability. I'd be lying to you. I do. And I'm probably the most guilty of it. That being said, the 2 best pitchers I've ever coached, bar none, are Sean Mooney and Tom Hackemer. Mooney's 5'9", 5'10", maybe 5'11". Tom's 5'9". They're not big dudes, but they're damn good. I think there's exceptions to the rule. I think it's easier to get excited about a guy with size and project on the frame, especially when you're recruiting younger kids. But there's plenty of baseball players that have exceptional tools that aren't big. You can do it positionally, the David Ecksteins and the Dustin Pedroias and the Jose Altuve's. Like, you can go on for days. There's tons of guys, but they do something exceptional. They have great bat-to-ball skills. They have elite hand speed. they have an elite pitch characteristics. You know, maybe they have a lot of ride to the fastball, or they're, Thomas Eshelman was a smaller guy at Cal State Fullerton, but he had a elite strike zone percentage. So I think what happens is you get a lot more passes and you get a lot more opportunities when you have size, but that doesn't mean that you can't be elite at the game. You just better do other things elite.
Awesome.
All right, so we'll just go around with this one. So what's your
and hold on, I want to add something to what Coach Hurba said.
Sure.
The reason why Coach Hurba can put that together is because he always tries to find guys that fit him, that fit his program, that fit the people he wants to be, he wants to coach. So he's never making a decision solely on performance. He's putting the whole piece of the puzzle together. And so, like, those three teams, that 4 year, those three teams that went to, they had great chemistry. They had great character. The amount of time he puts into this is second to none. And I know because I worked with him, and he's one of my best friends, and he's one of my mentors, and I model a lot of what I do off of how he does things. And there's so many more pieces to the puzzle than how big you are, That's why that works, because he took the time to figure each kid out, and they were there for various reasons other than how sexy they looked in the uniform,
I just, thanks, Corey, for saying that. I appreciate it. But really, I'm just a small piece of the puzzle on our coaching staff, but I benefit from the fact that 3 of the 4 coaches on our staff have been together for 14 years. And so we have a formula in place, and we have a pretty good feel for what works for us. And so through trial and error, I've had a lot of opportunities to reflect and go into Skip's office and say, hey, this young man reminds me of this guy. And that will take Skip to a place quickly when I say, I want you to go see him. Mike, I want you to go see him. So we have a lot of history together, and I benefit from that. I think, long gone are the days where, as a recruiting coordinator, I feel like I have to prove my worth. It has to be on me and my guy. It's we. So when we go into that office, the last thing that I would want is autonomy. I want coaches on our staff to see players if possible. Coach feels the same way. Mike feels the same way. So we get in that office, and much like you always say to yourself about umpires, I just want them to all get together and get the call right. I want to check the egos at the door. That's how we try and do it. And if that means that when I'm wrong on a player because Skip saw something different or Mike did, then that's the way the cookie crumbled on that guy, and vice versa. Our goal is to get together in a huddle and get it right on a guy, because we know what type of guys play well for us. So,
one quick question to add to that. Do you guys feel like you guys recruit a lot of guys that fit your system, or you guys recruit a lot of the best athletes to add to your systems and try to make them system guys?
I don't want to dominate this, but I think it's like look, I think I might have taken this from Ryan at one point too, but if you're going to make a good meal, right, a well-balanced meal that's really delicious, you're not going to, or a good soup, you're not going to just put all the same ingredient in there, If you're going to go to the zoo, you're not going to just want to see all tigers, okay? So if you're going to make anything that – yeah, I figured that's relevant right now. Joe Tiger King. But like at the end of the day, like, you got to have diversity. Yes, you need good athletes, okay? You need some game changers that can do some things with the legs, and maybe have a guy with elite power. And you don't want a whole pitching staff of guys that throw 82 and can trick you, But there's room for everything. Like, that's the beauty of it, Like, in a perfect pitching staff, if you had 17 guys, you'd have 7 or 8 lefties in a perfect world, and you'd have the rest be righties. You'd have some over-the-top guys with carry and up-down breaking balls, and you'd have some east-west guys with sinkers. You'd have some high-velo guys, some low-velo guys. You'd have a matchup guy, right? It's the same thing positionally. If you had all right-handed hitters that couldn't run and were just power guys, you'd be screwed. What happened if you face a good righty with a sinker-slider mix, with a guy that's quick to the plate? You're not winning that game. Sorry, the personnel doesn't match up, So it's the same thing. Like, it's the same thing if you're like, oh, I just want offensive guys and you can't catch the baseball. Well, good luck trying to win something, you know?
Yeah, and the other thing with that too is, so we'll do it a little bit to some extent where we're going to recruit to our field. I'm sure every program does that to some extent. Like at our field, the ball really carries out to right field. We've had a lot of success with big lefty power hitters, but by that same point, like was just mentioned, well, hopefully we go to a regional next year. And if we do, where are we going to be playing that regional? And if it's a field that the ball doesn't carry very well to right, and all we've done is recruit big left-handed hitters, we're in trouble in a regional or in a conference tournament or what have you. So I think that is really the best answer, that I would imagine every school to some extent recruits in their system, but you have to have some diversity. Otherwise, when you're not playing at home, you're going to be in big trouble.
I'll just jump in, Mike, with one last thing. You guys, this is fun because I love to learn from stuff. You know, I've already learned here on this call, but I also feel like, you know, I've been at Sacred Heart 14 years. I know, not to a T where I do this too much, but I know our target market of kids. So, you know, I was at your event, Joe, last year that was run up in, was it Rockland up in that area? And, you know, you have a bunch of guys throwing in the pen, right, for example. So I don't know how many guys, 40, 50 guys are throwing there, right? I'm out of those 40, 50 guys throwing, I'm circling 3 names.
Right.
Some of them, I'm crossing off for academic reasons. Some of them don't have the talent. Some can't command a strike zone. And frankly, some of them are too good. Some of them are too smart. If you're throwing 89 as a 10th grader and you have a 4.0 GPA, they're probably not the guy that's over my track record at Sacred Heart, we're not getting you. So it's also trying to narrow down who do I think is that fit. And I agree with what Corey said, but I know our target market of pitcher that we're generally getting and who's the right fit, and then hopefully they can project and develop as they're there. But it's not a system, if you will. It's just knowing where my time is going to be most fruitful.
Good stuff, guys. Good stuff. We'll go 2 last things and I'll let you guys go. So this one is just, what's your favorite thing about coaching?
I'll since I just went, I'll start. I love that the kids never age. So the old guys leave, the young guys come in. It's like Officer and a Gentleman, Louis Gossett Jr., and you get the young guys in. And I think the role of college and college baseball is to help them become in any way, shape, or form self-sufficient adults, right? And I love when they go from freshman dorm and you know, have to figure out their laundry and then eat on, you know, at the cafeteria, but then by juniors and seniors off campus, and they got to deal with the plumber and someone sloppy in the kitchen, and they got to figure out a variety of things. I love that growth process. And, you know, the freshman that doesn't really know how to stretch or do a proper, you know, throwing and hit a target on everything. And then you have your seniors that just ultimately, I think you want them to really not need you that much by the time they're a senior, you know, that it's just little tweaks here and there. So I just love that growth process of them as people, and then staying in touch with them and finding out how maybe something that we said to them, and that the breathing exercise that they thought was idiotic that we did while they were, now they do that all the time when their kids freaking out, you know, at 6 a.m. or something. So I think that's the joy of, I would love to coach life, but there's no such job that I can tell. So I figured coaching baseball is the closest thing.
I couldn't have said it better myself. I think that's a great answer.
Thanks.
I'll answer it from a different angle. Personally, professionally, I think what I've always loved about this profession is that there's a change of seasons. You get to wear a few different hats. You get to be a scout in the summertime. That's what you are. You get to be a salesman and recruit players and hopefully sell something that you believe in passionately, your school. You get to be a coach and get in the trenches and develop. You get to go in that bullpen or go in that cage and put your arm around a young man, like Coach Mazzoni said, and hopefully, you know, help him get one step closer to his dreams, but ultimately leave him a little bit of a blueprint on how to get through life once he leaves. But I think for me, it's a change of seasons. I don't think I would love being a professional scout because I wouldn't just love scouting 12 months out of the year. I don't think I would love just being in player development solely. And I don't think I would love it if there was just a role on coaching staffs where all you did was recruit on campus and sell the program, but you never got to throw that uniform on and be in the dugout, or you never got to go out with your stopwatch and scout a little. I've always loved the change of seasons, and I love the hats that it presents you.
I think
That's
that's
awesome.
awesome. And just to add to that, I think like as a coach, I really got into coaching originally because I like to teach. I thought about being an English teacher, which is what I studied in college, but I thought I could have a greater influence and have more fun for sure teaching baseball. But what I've learned is there's so much to teach and learn about life. Me learning from our players learning from their players, me learning from our other coaches, me learning from all you guys on this panel. There's so much learning that takes place in college because it's a coming of age time frame in everybody's life. You know, it's been so fascinating to see guys who are seniors on our team now who would oversleep practice as freshmen. And now when they're seniors, they come to us upset that our current freshmen are oversleeping practice. And it says, like one of our guys, it's Anthony, is his name. Anthony, do you remember when you did that 2 to 3 years ago? And he laughed, he said, you're right, but he's grown up. And then you start even learning, you know, behind the scenes, a lot of kids, a lot of adults, everybody's got stuff going on behind the scenes. So it's also good to get some perspective to know that, hey, nobody's trying to be a bad person. But when people make mistakes, when kids make mistakes, when adults make mistakes, a lot of times there's more to that story to be learned. And I know that's something I've really enjoyed in this process. It's helped me grow as a person, just knowing people aren't inherently bad. People just sometimes act a certain way because they have a raw deal going on in life at a time.
Well said.
What about you, Corey?
Well, going last year's tough because I don't really want to piggyback on everybody else. But for me, like, I try to keep it really simple. Like, I think that you can do a lot of things in your life. So I want to do something that brings me happiness every day. You know, I love my life. Like, I wake up every day, I'm thankful. The first thing I do every day is I write down what I'm thankful for. I make my players do it a lot too. And I get to do a job that I've always loved. Like, I was that loser kid that didn't play the video game. He just simulated it because he wanted to build the franchise. You know what I mean? I was that kid that wasn't very good at baseball. So I was trying to read books and learn how to be good because I wasn't good, you know? So everything I've ever done has been built around doing this, you know? I want to learn more. I like reading. I like teaching. I love the sport. I love being around my family. I love having my kids at the yard. I love all of it, you know? And so for me, like, there's a lot of things I can do, but I just want to be happy. And being a baseball coach makes me happy. So, and for all the reasons you guys stated, like every single one of them, like I like it all, you know?
Awesome. That's good stuff. All right. So last thing, guys, before we let you go, give me a book or a movie that you think would be a good pickup for guys to kind of take in at this point, being that there's so much downtime.
Well, I'm going to use the book one first because I've dropped it like 3 times, but It Takes What It Takes, Trevor Moawad, is fire. I'll leave it at one book because I keep going forever. And I've used this book a little bit lately, and some of your guys actually have had to watch this for homework assignments. So Amazon Prime right now has the movie Warrior, and I've had guys watch that, and I love that movie. Yeah, it's action-packed. It's fun. It's like a typical guy action movie, but there's some really good lessons in it. You can learn about how guys train differently from different perspectives, and you can also see why people have different sources of motivation, like what their why is, so to speak. So those would be my 2 recommendations.
Who's up?
Yeah, a couple that I got. I just finished a book that we're actually doing as a book club with some of our players over Zoom called Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's a great book. James Clear actually played Division III baseball at Denison University. So I think that's a cool time. It's a baseball guy. So Atomic Habits is great. Right now I'm reading The Inner Game of Tennis. So The Inner Game
That's
of
a good
Tennis,
one.
yeah, by Tim Galloway. That's a really good one. And then just a movie. It's very cliche, and I know it's a Hollywood film, but I want to throw it out there because I watched it 2 nights ago, is Miracle. And the reason why I bring that up is it just speaks again to when everybody has a common goal, how special an experience can be. You know, we all get caught up in trying to accomplish our own selfish interests and trying to accomplish our own specific goals. But I just love Miracle because everybody worked together, and it obviously made for a very historic moment. So
I'll jump in with 2. And this first one is a book, but I would say it's more for parents. I'm going to assume some parents are going to watch this piece and not just the kids. So the book is called The Untethered Soul, which is very high level kind of philosophy that I could boil down to say that the guy's perspective is we're accidentally alive. This is a big universe. We're accidentally given life on this big ball hurtling through space. And then we get all freaked out because we spilled coffee on our shirt. So like just more perspective on how to look at things. And it's a really good book, which I don't think a high school kid, and probably I give the guys snippets of it, but if I told them to sit down and read it, they would not be interested. The movie or TV show, we've hopefully all seen it. If you haven't, is Free Solo. Alex Honnold, who does the ascent of El Capitan without rope. I defy anyone to say that in the history of the world that anything is more amazing than what he does. And not that we're going to do that, but it's just, to me, it blows you away of what a human is capable of doing when you are focused, obsessed, and have the aptitude, as Ryan said before. So have you guys seen Free Solo?
No, I haven't.
No.
Heard about it.
It's absolutely, if you rent it and don't like it, I'll Venmo you the money for it.
I love that stamp of approval. Right?
Awesome.
Yeah.
What do you got, Herbs?
Man, Corey, you know me well enough. I'm pretty comfortable in my own skin. I don't watch TV. When I say I don't watch TV, like, I'll tell you a quick funny story. Mike joined our staff, probably Mike Foley, our info coach, joined our staff about 4 years ago. I think it was about our third or fourth weekend on the road. And, you know, you open up on the road, I think first 4 weeks at least. And he turned and looked at me and he's like, Ryan, hey man, you mind if I turn the TV on? We haven't turned the TV on yet. We've been on the road together about 16 nights. And so I was like, hey, yeah, I didn't even realize it. I don't really watch TV. I don't read a whole bunch. So for me, like, I'm a doer. And so, you know, what I would challenge a young man to do at this time, and this loops back, Joe, to one of your questions that you had sent out, you got to create some discipline in your life. And you got to use this opportunity right now to form habits that you won't be able to form when you have all the activities in the day that get in the way. So right now, time's your friend.
Love that.
All of our friend. So what I've done is, man, I'm in bed by 9:30 every night, and I'm up at 5 in the morning. And I do what I have to do from 5 until 6. I get on my phone, I return some emails and texts, and then I go out to my barn every morning, and I put in about 2 hours where I do a little bit of woodwork. It's a little escape for me. I clear my head, and then I come back in at about 8, and just the house is starting to wake up. And so for me, I've already had 3 hours in, and everybody's just starting to shake out the cobwebs. I make breakfast for everybody. I get, you know, my wife going if she's got to go to work or whatever. So hopefully that discipline for me personally will now translate once we get back into what the new normal is. So hopefully now I've shifted to where staying up till 10:30 isn't even an option because my body's like, I'm tired, I got to shut down. But getting up at 7 or 7:30 isn't an option either. That's my hopes. And I'm trying to create that discipline in a really simple way right now because time's my friend.
So you're talking about like the guys who used to get up probably at like 6:30 to go to school, be on that routine, you know, now for that last month and a half where they're not going to school, you know, maybe they're up until midnight or whatever, you know, whatever time.
Yeah.
Video game.
Any recruits listening to this know that if they text me after 9:30, they get a text at about 5:30 in the morning.
I do
It's
the
my
same
way
thing.
of saying, who's the first one up, you know?
All right, I had to say this because you just mentioned sleep, but the greatest performance enhancer is sleep.
No question.
When you sleep properly, there's so many studies that talk about how your body recovers, talks about your circadian rhythms. It produces human growth hormone in your body. I mean, you can go on for days. So if you want to, and it's not just like how much sleep you get, but it's the quality of sleep to what Ryan's talking about. So like going to bed at a certain time, waking up, get your circadian rhythms right. It makes your sleep quality higher. Okay. So like so many people are like, how do I get bigger and stronger? Sleep. Now my wife's really into like nutrition right now. So she's doing all these different types of like intermittent fasting and stuff like that. But there's all this data out there in science like that if you can shut down eating for 12 hours and you eat within a 12-hour window, your body recovers faster. So all these guys out there that are like, I can't gain weight. Well, you don't sleep. All right, so let's start there. You don't sleep the right way. Not to mention you're not I can go down a rabbit hole for days, but sleep is huge. Like you want to talk about being healthy, being bigger, being stronger, having more energy, having more awareness, starts with sleep.
I'll jump in and say I'm on Ryan's kind of schedule, but what's funny is I did a little Instagram thing with a player of ours who's in AAA with the Cubs, and he's rooming with Ian Happ and a bunch of guys that are big leaguers. And we were on this little talk, and I said, I was thinking when I asked them, what time do you guys go to bed, that they would have kind of figured out the early to bed, early to rise. And they go, we go to bed at 2 and we wake up at 10. And I go, what? And they go, that's what happens during a big league season. We're staying ready.
Yep.
And I go, wow, look at these guys locked in because they know that that's what is going to be a big league lifestyle, is that's your hours, right? So I thought that was interesting.
I would think if you ask a lot of minor leaguers after they get released for the last time and they have to start their life after, whether that means go back to finish their education or what have you, that's probably one of the biggest adjustments is changing their clock, you know, trying to come off that game high when the lights go out at 10 and hanging out with the boys, going to grab something to eat quick, and then all of a sudden being like, wow, it's 1 a.m. and I'm just starting to get a little tired. That's not really, that doesn't work in a lot of other environments once you leave college or sports, and like the toy aisle of life, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, you know.
Well, I mean, this was awesome, guys. I definitely appreciate you taking the time out to, kind of go over some stuff with us. Hope everybody's staying safe and healthy, and hopefully at some point, this summer or fall at least, we see you guys.
Sounds good. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it was great listening to you guys. That was awesome.
Same. Wayne, good seeing you. Mike, Nate,
You
good
two
seeing
guys.
Thank you so much for your time, guys.
See you, Moose.
Appreciate it.
Bye, guys.
See you guys.
All right,
Take
brother.
care, guys.
Call you this week, Rye.
All right, man. See
Later.
you.
Call them early.
Don't
Early.
worry, I'm up when he's up. He's gonna get a phone call at 5:30.